Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side.
Hey, little skeletons. I'm Gina.
And I'm Amber.
And this is Weird True Crime.
We're back with the second half of our chat with John Palmer. If you missed last week's episode, please go back and listen to the absolutely devastating story about what happened to his wife, Katie Palmer, in April 2020. We can't convey the raw emotion that John showed in a recap. You have to hear it for yourself to understand the joy she brought in life and the impact of her death.
Stay tuned to the end of this episode to hear the actual body cam audio from the day of the accident. Katie and John were on an early morning walk on April 21st, 2020, when Corey Todd Foster veered across the road and hit them from behind with his large pickup truck. John was critically injured and Katie was killed. Not only did John lose his wife and the mother of his children, but he was also failed by the investigator and elected officials whose job it was to bring justice for Katie. Let's get back to our conversation with John and the rest of his story. So we had talked about Corey's prior stuff, but I think it is a good time to get into Brett Smith, of course. So yeah, if you don't mind walking us through kind of what happened after the accident, what from a legal perspective, kind of when did all of that get started and kind of what happened from there?
We didn't hear anything for a while. And for a while, I believe it was a couple weeks, didn't hear anything at all. I did have a conversation or two with Tarif Al-Khatib. He had made one statement that was that always sticks in my head. He said, Corey's an alcoholic, right? He said something to the effect of, he's an alcoholic. And I didn't know. I asked him if he took Corey in for a blood test, and he said he didn't, but again stated something to the effect of, well, you should be happy with the PBT because we got him, in quotes, at a 0.06. If we had gotten blood from him, that would have dropped down to maybe a 0.02, 0.03. I was very naive at this point. I didn't realize that a PBT was not admissible in a criminal court of law. So it's just a tool. That's all. And it's inaccurate. So Corey could have been at a 0.07, we will never know because Tarif didn't do his job. And so I assumed that, I didn't know. Okay. I had known what I know now back then. It would have been definitely a very different conversation that I had with Trooper Tarif Al-Khatib. So DPS got the report done. It was at the DA's office. I'm assuming at this time we were assuming that we were waiting on the DA. I had called in. I got a hold of Brett Smith. Brett said that he did not have anything for me because he did not have the report, which is fine. I understand that. If you don't have a report, you have nothing to go off of. He said at this point in time, you probably know more than me. I haven't gotten a report yet. There's nothing I can do. Okay. But as soon as we get it, we'll reach out. Okay. A week or so passed, 2 weeks maybe. And Katie's mom wanted to know what this man was doing to get justice for her daughter. Wanted to know why the man that killed her daughter is still driving up and down our street at that point with the dent still in the hood. Okay. My kids had to see that. And that was traumatic also. And so she called up to the DA's office. Brett wasn't there. He was on leave. I guess he had some medical procedure done, hip replacement, I believe. And so Rondi got his number off of social media. Okay. He's an elected official. If you don't want people to call your cell phone, don't put it on social media. Pretty simple, right? So Rondi called Brett on his cell phone. And instead of trying to console this woman who just lost her daughter in a horrific way, he was angry that she called his cell phone, told her you never call an elected official on their cell phone, and was very rude to her, and told her that he knew nothing of the case and was very dismissive. Okay. Well, you both could imagine if Katie had been your child and you're trying to find out what's being done about what happened to her, and that's how you're treated, it's going to resonate pretty heavily inside of you, and you're going to be angry. Okay. Now, after Rhonda was treated horribly by Brett Smith, after she had just called to find out what the status of this case was, again, we don't have a platform, we don't have a way to get in information out. Rhonda took to social media, and her friends did as well. Katie was beloved in this town, and Rhonda put that out there, and there was anger. There was an uproar on how Rhonda was treated for just calling to find out what's going on with her daughter's case, right? That spread very quickly, and that led to a phone call from Brett Smith to me. And I got this phone call, and I assumed that I'm getting a call from the DA. I was almost killed. My wife was killed. This has to do something with our case. Absolutely not. He was very angry about how he was being portrayed on social media, and asked me to put a stop to it. And again, I don't control social media, but he asked that I talk to people and to quash it. And so
What a
another week went by, another 2 weeks went by. Emotions ran very high. And again, Brett Smith's name was brought up, which led to a second call from Brett Smith. The same type of conversation. Okay. More worried about social media presence and Q-score than actually doing your job, the one that you campaigned for, right? So we finally had a meeting with Brett Smith in June. It was around June, so roughly 2 months after, okay? We had a meeting with Brett, and we're going to sit down, and I'm going to speak with this man about my wife, somebody he's never met. I went and had pictures made of Katie. If we're going to talk about her, I'm going to introduce her to you. I can't do it physically, so I'm just going to show you pictures. I'm going to walk you through who she was. So we got there. It was Brett Smith and Laura Wheeler and Don Hoover. Those are two of the prosecutors in the Grayson County District Attorney's Office. I was accompanied by Rhonda Nail, Katie's mom, Tony Tipton, Katie's dad, and Logan Nail, one of Katie's brothers. So we went in there, and I got out my pictures, and I told him that I was going to introduce Katie, and Brett didn't want to hear it, and I told him, well, this is what I'm going to do. If we're going to talk about her, this is what I'm going to do, and that's it. Had a picture of Katie at her brother's wedding, Katie and the kids, Katie and her dad, Katie and her mom, Katie and her sister, and other brother, and wanted them to get to know her, because you can't know somebody by reading a bio on paper, right? I mean,
No.
that's black and white. This is color. And these people that are in these pictures are here sitting next to you. This is who Katie was. That's her mom. That's her dad. That's her brother. This is us on our wedding. This is who she was. The other two prosecutors took the pictures and looked at them and seemed to try to take in as much as possible. Brett stood in the corner like a child with his arms crossed, wouldn't touch the pictures, told us that he's seen everything he needs to see on social media. Again, caught up on social media. And so I got done. I was done explaining who Katie was. And then Brett immediately went in on Rhonda. Was, again, angry about the social media. And so here we are, right? I was almost killed. I lost my wife. Two parents lost their daughter, and a brother who lost his sister. And we're still hung up on the fact that people are angry at you because of how you treated Rhonda. And so once that got taken care of, as far as Brett had to speak and let everybody know that he was going to control the meeting. Okay. After his social media concerns were addressed, then he jokingly turned to Rhonda and told her to call off her jihad. That's how the Grayson County District Attorney's Office handles victims. Now, there's not a playbook that I have. There's not a guide that I have on how I'm supposed to act with what we've been through and how we were treated. There's no script that I know of on what I'm supposed to do. There's none. We are simply going off of emotion.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only thing that guided us. Brett told Rhonda to call off her jihad. That fell so dead in that room. Brett let a little laugh out, and everybody else just kind of stared and was almost amazed that you would want to tell a joke, right?
Yeah.
Then Brett made mention that DPS failed, that missteps were made. That's his words. Those are his words. Missteps were made. He has no clue why blood wasn't drawn. He then questioned Sharif Al-Khatib's report and the pictures. Said it was horrible. In fact, I believe he said that he even went on to state that report got kicked back once because it was so inadequate. Okay. Which, by looking at the body camera footage, I could see that there was probably hardly any effort put forth into what the original first draft was. So they were going to look into it. They were going to get back to us. We left that meeting not really feeling one way or another. Didn't know what was going to happen. I had a couple meetings with First Assistant District Attorney Kerry Ashmore, who was going to present our case to the grand jury. He asked for... We had to provide the DA's office with photographs that Katie's aunt took the day after because there weren't adequate photographs taken by DPS. Okay, none. We met out maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the grand jury out where all this occurred. And that's the first time that I met the neighbor that pulled up, and I remember just giving her a hug. In just her voice, in such a chaotic day, right? It's odd. Her voice was so calming, and that was something that I won't forget that either. It was just a calming voice saying everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay, and very glad that she was there. And I see her drive up and down our road, and I will stop what I'm doing and just wave. Yeah. That's just, she was almost like an angel. Just the fact that it was just so calming. And so we all met. Um, there was, again, due to lack of a DPS investigation, nobody interviewed the neighbor that was across the street. There was a neighbor across the street that heard the impact and saw Corey get out of his truck, and he just assumed that. And I've talked to him once or twice after, and he said that he just thought that that was like the door slamming real hard, and that Corey was getting his dog. He had a dog that was always out. He thought Corey had just stopped, slammed the door, and was getting his dog. And that guy was I believe that gentleman's a firefighter or a EMT or a nurse. And he goes, I'm so sorry. You know, I didn't know that anybody had gotten hit. But what's real important about that, had DPS, which they talked to that guy, but didn't talk. They talked with him, but didn't talk to him. That's the same neighbor that said that Corey's out in his front yard drinking beer at 10:30 in the morning. Had they had talked to this neighbor, they would have known exactly where the truck was,
Mm-hmm.
right? They could have gotten some information and gathered evidence on what happened that day, not just all sat around in a circle and laughed and did everything but their job. So he went to talk to that neighbor, and then August 19th, 2020 is when we had the grand jury. I testified. Since DPS did not and refused to do a accident recreation, Grayson County had to have a third party do it. A gentleman with that firm testified, and Tree Valcati testified, and it was a couple hours. Remember waiting, and then Carrie Ashmore came out, and I'm sitting upstairs with one of Katie's brothers, and grand jury files out, and Carrie Ashmore tells me that they got no build, and that was very confusing on how somebody's life can be taken. Somebody can cross over the roadway, and nothing's going to
be done about it.
Not even a traffic citation. It's like this never happened. Nothing. So,
can you tell us more about the issues with the grand jury that day?
And that's exactly what I wanted to get into. Found out that later we would come to find out that instead of 12 grand jurors, there were only 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you all in Texas or where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
We're in Austin.
Okay. Good. Okay. So at that point in time, a quorum of jurors was 9 for a grand jury, correct? 12 jurors sit, but you only have to have 9. But you need to have 9 votes to indict. I asked Carrie Ashmore where the alternates were, and he just shrugged his shoulders. Didn't know. You would think that he would know. I mean, his wife is the district clerk who runs the juries. So you would think that he would have some inclination on how this whole process works. And the fact that he's been a prosecutor for 30 years, you think he'd be just a little bit better at his job. But, I think sometimes we just give people too much credit. So there were only 10 grand jurors. There was a report by the third party that Grayson County had to hire to recreate the accident. That final report was dated August 25th. Okay. The grand jury was August 19th. Mm-hmm. So the grand jury never saw this report, which was, in every sense of the word, damning towards mm-hmm. Corey Foster. Very damning. I've put that out there. I wanted everybody to have access to it. Mm-hmm. In addition, they never got Corey's cell phone records. Never. I had another meeting with Brett and Carrie, and they told me that they would get those cell phone records, and if there's anything in there that, they would make sure to make sure, no stone goes unturned, right? And then I asked them to go back to the grand jury and ask them to reconsider with a full 12. And I was told that they did that, and the grand jury declined to revisit it. At which point I told Kerry Ashmore that this was on the phone, told him that I'm going to shed light on everything that's happened. And he was dismissive, and he said, okay, all right. So that's exactly what we started to do. So we put everything out there, every single meeting, every single bit of information we had. Because again, we don't have a platform. Our platform is Facebook. Our platform is Twitter. So we wanted to get the information out there because I think it's important. Everybody has all the information. That's one thing. And again, just like what the grand jury didn't have was information. So we were going to put it all out there during our civil discovery process, because we had a civil suit filed against Corey Foster. We got his cell phone records. That's when we saw that he was on the phone. And we know this because when and this is all on body camera footage, Sharif Al-Khatib asked Corey what happened as soon as he hit us. Corey said, well, as soon as I got out of the truck and saw that I hit them, I immediately dialed 911. Now, if you go into those cell phone records, it shows that approximately 31 seconds before he called 911, he called another number. Okay. That was a 903 area code number. That's a Grayson County number. So, and we know that it's 38 seconds, right? From his driveway to where he hit us if he was going 33 miles an hour. By the way, he told DPS he was going 15 miles per hour, but that's just another lie. So it would be impossible for Corey to place that call in his driveway and then call 911 as soon as he hit us, because it's a 38-second drive. That phone call only lasted 31 seconds. So the only plausible timeline is that as he was head down, not paying attention, dialing this number, he drifted over the roadway that he couldn't see, and being cognitively impaired, dialed this number, and being distracted by using the phone, dialed this number, hit send, hit us, came to a rolling stop, okay, had his phone in his hand, got out to investigate what he hit. Again, in his words, I thought I hit a telephone pole. Got out, heard me yelling for somebody to call the cops, made the statement that, he couldn't see and he didn't know it was us, and looked down and had his phone in his hand. And that elapsed roughly 29 seconds, hit end on the call, and hit 911 2 seconds later, dialed. That's the only plausible timeline. And we put that together. We provided everything, sent it back to the DA's office. They looked at it, and then I questioned why the phone records weren't gotten in the first place, and they put all that back on me. They said, well, you wanted to get this done quickly, and it was my fault that they didn't do their job. But again, when you're dealing with men like Brett Smith and Kerry Ashmore, they're never wrong. And I think that's an issue with a lot of prosecutors and DAs. Once they make their mind up, that's it. Yeah. That's it. Well, everybody, there's nobody that's perfect. But when you have a godlike complex and in your own head, everything you do is absolutely correct, then I think there's a huge fault in that. And I think we've exposed that tremendously.
And it says a lot about the type of people they are, that they would put the onus back on you, the victim.
Oh, I've got the email, and I read that, and I was going, so it's my fault. I've never subpoenaed cell phone records for all I know, the DA sends a letter to AT&T. Somebody gets it, pulls a printout, gets it back to him in a week. I don't know how long it takes. Again, I mean, I've never been in trouble with the law. I've never had to subpoena cell phone records. I don't know how this works. Didn't know it was a long, drawn-out process. But 18 months later, we got them, immediately saw them, knew that was another contributing factor, along with the alcohol, along with the blind driving, and now we've got distracted driving. Okay. And so gave that back to the DA's office. They looked at it. I get a call on a Monday or Tuesday. I believe the grand jury meets on a Tuesday. So I got a call on a Monday. I believe it was Monday, about 4:30 from Carrie Ashmore saying, "Hey, I've got this. I'm putting these phone records in front of a grand jury." And I'm going, okay, do I need to come in to testify? This is a brand new grand jury. It's been 18 months. And I believe that a grand jury sits for roughly six months, and there's a new grand jury. It's about every 6 months or so. So it's a brand new grand jury. Am I going to come testify? He said, no. Well, what's going to be shown? Well, he said that they're going to show them the cell phone records, and then if there's anything else that they want to see, then they'll provide it. The phone call ended, and that did not sit right with me at all. I was like, why would I not be able to go in there and testify? Why wouldn't Tarif be called to testify? Why wouldn't this expert, this third party who recreated the whole scene, why wouldn't they be called in to testify? What's going to be shown? Is that report that was completed 6 days after the first grand jury? Is that going to be shown? I tried to call back his office. He wouldn't answer. I believe there was an election going on. And so he went to an election party, right? And so I was texting him back and forth because I still had a cell phone from the very first time we went through the grand jury process. And we ended the text exchange with me asking him to not go forward with this unless I was going to we were going to have testimony and we knew everything was going to be presented. Didn't hear anything back. Okay. I called and left a message with the DA's office and said, "This is for Brett Smith and Carrie Ashmore. Rhonda Nail and I, Katie's mom, we're going to be up there early in the morning. We want to know what's going on." We show up at about 7:45. The grand jurors are filing in about anywhere from 8:15 to 8:30, asked to speak to somebody numerous times. They wouldn't meet with us. And next thing I know, Carrie Ashmore comes walking out and said, "Well, it's in the grand jury's hands now." So we got railroaded, and he wanted to be able to say that we took it back in front of another grand jury, and they came back with the same result. Well, you didn't take it back. You again did what you did the first time. You had a partial collection of the evidence the first time, and then a partial collection of the evidence of the second time. Mm-hmm. So you presented two different parts of the case, but never at once. So we've never gotten a full grand jury with 12 grand jurors. We've never gotten a fair shake, but it was done with reason. That's exactly, I believe, that's why Carrie did that. And we got railroaded. And so not only are we fighting for justice for Katie, but we're fighting now. It seems like we're fighting against the only people that can provide that justice. Mm-hmm. And that just shows you what a broken system.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that these are the people that are supposed to be representing and helping you.
They're, a DA's job is not to get convictions. Mm-hmm. It's to promote justice.
Right.
Justice has never been promoted in this case at all.
No.
And then so Carrie comes out, says it's going to be in the hands of the grand jury. And then we start to question him. And he looks at Rhonda and says something to the effect of, "I'm damn good at my job, ma'am, and I don't have to explain myself." Okay. This is this is Grayson County. So obviously Kerry comes out and says, well, the grand jury didn't indict. And I completely lost it. I had 18 months of anger and emotion, and I let loose on Kerry Ashmore. So much so the sheriff's office dumped out into the hallway to see what was going on. And I won't repeat what I told him, but meant every single word of it. Every single syllable of every word meant it 100%, and would gladly say that to him again.
Mm-hmm.
Just a horrible representation of that office. And again, I've never had any contact with that office. I've never been in trouble with the law, but since Brett Smith has taken over, that office has deteriorated. And that's affecting all of Grayson County. And there's a lot of other cases that we've highlighted where Brett Smith has failed families. And that's another reason why we fight. Again, just like I said before, we don't want this to happen to another family with regards to DPS. I don't want another family have to go through what we've gone through and continually go through with Brett Smith. So that ends, right? We end up filing a grievance against Tarif with DPS for his actions. The office of the Inspector General came out to my house and talked to me. They had opened up an investigation on Tarif for that day. Spoke with, I believe it was don't remember the trooper's name, but I believe it was a lieutenant, came out, interviewed me. Before he came to speak to me, he went to go speak to Brett Smith. Makes sense. Wants to get the information from the DA, case file, and all that. And they do their investigation, and I get a letter saying that they observed some shortcomings, and they will address those internally, and this matter's closed. Okay. Again, DPS circled the wagons, insulated Tarif. I wasn't going to take that as a finality. I ended up having a meeting with the chief of the Highway Patrol for Texas, drove up to Garland. So he came from Austin up to Garland. I drove down to Garland. We met. DPS would not go into detail on a lot of the questions that we had, because I'm assuming that they don't want any liability. We're not looking for liability with DPS. We're looking for accountability with Tarif Al-Khatib. And so in that meeting, though, the chief of the Highway Patrol, I brought up the fact that Brett Smith said, again, our meeting in June of 2020, Brett told us that missteps were made. Tarif did a horrible job. Blood should have been drawn. And I was told that Brett Smith told the office of the Inspector General, that lieutenant that came out, Brett told that lieutenant that Tarif did a fine job, that he did a good job. So he lied. And then after, in 2 months after he had that meeting with Office of the Inspector General, Rhonda had been calling him, and finally Brett decided to call her back, and Brett put the the responsibility of that day back on Tarif by saying, Tarif screwed up and didn't get blood. There's nothing I can do. What do you want me to do? So he tells the victim and families one thing in June, and then tells, I want to say in 2022, in January, says the complete stark opposite to internal affairs. And then 2 months after that, calls Rhonda and reiterates the fact that Tarif failed. So we've got a district attorney that lies. That's it. And we've put that out there as well. So we're definitely not going to go quietly, and we're not going to stop. Men like Brett Smith should not hold the power and should not wield the power that they have.
No, absolutely not. And to that point, something we had talked about previously about the internal investigation was about the investigator and how he's actually connected to Al-Khatib.
So it was was a captain, I believe. So the investigator came out and he answered to a captain. That captain used to be over the Grayson County DPS office. Mm-hmm. So everybody's intertwined.
Yep.
So you wonder why nothing happened to Tarif, because this guy used to be over Tarif. He right. used to be in his direct chain of command. And like to point out how everything in this case is so horribly married together. It's you have the relationship between Tarif and Corey, which we talked about with the wives and the pictures. Brett Smith represented the Foster family in a previous DWI, so they used to be former. That the Foster family was a client of Brett Smith's prior to him working at the DA's office, and then Brett Smith is related to Tarif Al-Khatib by marriage.
Do you know how they're related by marriage?
So Tarif's stepdad and Brett Smith's wife are cousins.
Oh.
And Tarif was raised, from what I understand, Tarif was raised by his stepdad, and they live next door to one another in a town close to us, Pottsboro. So it's so interwoven. I mean, there's not a single entity that's not intertwined. And then, of course, you go back to, again, just like you said, the Office of the Inspector General. How are you supposed to be impartial to somebody that you worked with for a period of time and you still have ties to, right? Because, I believe that man would probably have ties to Tarif's direct superiors. And if you got a direct superior that has Tarif's back, right? Phone calls made and everything gets pushed under the rug. Gets swept under the rug. And Tarif, by his direct supervisor, Jim Bob Walters, was actually praised by how he's handled our situation. Our situation, not Tarif's, but it's our situation, the one that Tarif put us into. Tarif is one of the main culprits of why Corey Foster is not in prison right now. And it was something to the effect of basically the victim's family was not happy that not happy. I mean, was just not happy with how everything turned out, and basically lashed out against Tarif on social media. And Tarif has shown great professionalism in how he has endured this. And my thought was professionalism, and he's a model for younger troopers. Do me a favor. Bring all those new cadets or young troopers into a room. Just go ahead and play all that body camera footage, and then you need to ask those young troopers or cadets, "Is this how you want to be remembered?"
Is this how you want to treat victims?
Exactly. If this man is such a model, if he is the gold standard of Grayson County, what the hell is the standard in the first place?
Yeah, right. And you said that he's corporal now, right? So he's
gotten promoted twice.
Right. So not only was he praised for how he handled it, but he's been promoted twice.
Well, he was praised on how he handled all of the negative media. Right. But he put himself in that spot. He did a horrible job. And had he done the right thing, which was have Corey, have his blood tested, have taken him to the hospital, he wouldn't have found himself in a position where he was praised for being so stoic.
Right.
He is a liability every single time that he is out on the road. And again, an officer like Sharif Al-Khatib does not deserve the honor of wearing a badge. And he is the stark opposite of the other two officers from Denison PD that I encountered that day. Those two men are law enforcement, not these men that mishandled a crime scene, and again did everything but their job when we needed them most.
So 3 years have passed. So now we're past the statute of limitations for criminal charges against Corey Foster.
On a couple, correct. Criminally negligent homicide has a 3-year statute of limitations, and aggravated assault, what he did to me, manslaughter does not.
Okay. Manslaughter
does not have a statute of limitations, and we will continue to push for that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Any new, Brett Smith has told us that, that they'll never take this back to a grand jury. We're going to keep putting new information out there, and we're going to demand that Brett do his job. I'm just, 3.5 years. It's almost been 3.5 years.
Yeah.
I told Katie's brother Logan, it had to have been a year and a half or so after, and you just, there's many points where you feel like you're beating your head against a wall, or you're screaming into a pillow that no one hears you at all. As far as those that can actually, provide justice for Katie. And I told him that the justice that we seek and find will be the justice that we never see. And he looked at me and he goes, "What does that even mean?" And I said, "Well, we're going to continue to tell her story. We're going to continue to try and change laws. We're going to continue to be advocates. And the justice that we will get is a justice we won't see, means that the next time an officer like Sharif Al-Khatib pulls over or comes onto a scene and there's a person like Corey Foster, there's a relationship there, or Sharif's going to do, or another officer is going to do somebody solid. Maybe they've heard about Katie's case. Maybe they'll think twice. Maybe they'll take that person in for a blood test. A prosecutor or a DA that might have heard about Katie's case won't treat victims like they're the criminals, and will actually give a damn and will do their job and won't placate victims, and will actually promote justice and will seek justice and will ensure that justice is done. Justice to us is having Corey Foster in a criminal courtroom in front of a jury. That's justice. Now, whatever the jury decides in a criminal courtroom, not a farce of a grand jury that takes place in Grayson County, that's justice. And that's all we've asked for. We've just asked for, somebody in that DA's office to take this seriously, to present everything in front of a grand jury, take this to a criminal court, try it, and whatever those 12 jurors decide, that's justice. And we're going to continue to fight for it. We are.
You say Brett says that he will not bring it to a grand jury again, but that's kind of what we're fighting for right now, right? Is to get him out of that position and get someone new in, which is something that you have been working towards, and you know someone who is going to run against him next year.
Absolutely. So, yeah, there's a rumor in Grayson County that there's going to be another candidate that's going to challenge Brett Smith. That candidate has not announced yet, but will absolutely receive all of our support. There needs to be change in Grayson County. You know, last election cycle, we started a grassroots campaign, and we're helpful in getting a new county judge elected, and we hope to do the same thing with Brett Smith. And you know, I've hit on this before. There are other families that Brett Smith has failed. There are stories. I mean, Vice News just did a story on Pastor Ricky Rush. And that's a pretty large footprint that Vice News had. And, you know, the Dallas DA recused himself. Just a quick synopsis. Ricky Rush was accused of sexual assault, right? And there's been, I guess the Dallas Morning News has done a lot of stories on this, because I believe Ricky Rush has a big following. So the charges came up. The DA in Dallas recused himself because he has a personal relationship with Pastor Rush, and they looked to Grayson County. And Brett Smith's office came down there and got it no billed, okay? And there was such a large outcry. He did such a horrible job, his office did, that the president, I think, gentleman's name, last name of Flynn, who is the president of the National District Attorneys Association, called into question Brett Smith's office's tactics on how he handled it. They did not even interview a single victim. So, you know, his failures and families here in Grayson County have bled all the way down to Dallas County. I don't know. I would think that the president of your national organization, if he calls into question your abilities and your tactics and how you handle cases, let's say that's pretty damning. I'd say that's not an endorsement on how great of a district attorney Brett Smith is. It just shows again on, you know, a national scale, right? Somebody pointing the finger at Brett, going, "This guy didn't know what he's doing," and that's who we want. Grayson County deserves better. Okay, Katie deserves better. Families here deserve better, and we're going to push, and we're going to campaign, and we're going to do everything we can to get Brett out of office and get a new district attorney in office.
Honestly, he seems like one of those people that wanted to be in a position of power, and then once he got it, that was it. He was done. He wasn't going to put in any effort. He had no intention of actually doing his job or representing people, or, you know, holding up his responsibility.
I believe that he's very very overwhelmed with what this position actually entails. And for as much as he's been overwhelmed, he's been very, just underperformed. And there is, you know, again, family after family of people that have reached out and said, you know, we have been going through the same thing. And we're going to shed light on that also. And believe this county is going to be much better off with Brett Smith having the title of former Grayson County district attorney. So
100%. And the county is really lucky to have you in their corner. It's unfortunate that you have to do that and that you're in that position you're in because of everything you've gone through. But, you know, I've said this to you before. It's so commendable the way that you handled what you went through, and that you are using your voice to speak out and help others and hopefully make your community better and get out those people that aren't doing their jobs effectively, so the people of Grayson County can have, representatives that do have their back and will help them in time of need.
And I really appreciate that, but I couldn't have done anything couldn't done anything without friends and family and the support of this community. It just shows you how much Katie meant to this city and to this county. Man, again, 3.5 years, but her name is spoken every single day.
Yeah.
So she hasn't been forgotten. She's never going to be forgotten. And everything that we in this county are doing is for positive change. And I'd give anything to have her back, of course. There's anything that I wouldn't do. I know that can't happen. But I want to make sure, of course, when I see her again, right, that I can look her in the eye and tell her that I did my best. So that's I think 5 years from now, if I can lay my head on my pillow and know that I did everything that I possibly could, every reasonable thing that I possibly could, to fight for her, for justice, and to change this county, not just change it, but help be a cog in a wheel that brings about positive change, then I know that when I lay my head down on that pillow, then I'll be able to sleep. So that's it. I mean, everything that I do, I do for her.
And what can the listeners do for you? What are you hoping to help for people to help? Actions to take. How can we help you in this fight?
So, like I said before, there's going to be a primary next year in March. There's going to be a candidate here in Grayson County that is going to announce. And we would like everybody, if you can follow us on our group page on Facebook, when that announcement is made, help us in any way possible. We're going to be campaigning for this candidate, and we're going to keep on causing change. Again, nothing that we can do can bring her back, but what we can do is make sure that another family doesn't go through what we've gone through and what the other families that I spoke about have gone through. And getting Brett Smith out of office, it's a major step towards accomplishing that.
100%. I guess, do you have any other last words or anything that you feel like it's important for us to make sure that the listeners hear or are aware of?
You guys have been great, and I appreciate it. I don't think I've left anything out. I'm sorry at the very beginning. It's crazy. I can. I don't know what it is. It's when I can talk about it, but the second that I've got a therapist that I've gone to, and I would always tell him that I'm fine And then I sit on his couch and I was just like, look, I'm like allergic to the fabric of your couch, or I don't know what it is, because I'm fine all day. And I sit down and just, lose it. Speaking about it is helpful. I mean, it's helpful to me. It helps me continue to process it. So, sorry for the first, 10, 15 minutes, you go through all of these emotions. And just like that one question that you asked about, what's one kind of mundane thing, and no one's ever asked that. And for the first 2 years, I would just, my hands, I can feel, every single part of her feet, and it's such a it's just something that wasn't talked about or planned. It's just something that happened. She sat down and she would put her feet in my lap, and we had a little nightstand kind of deal by our couch, and I'd get some lotion, put them in there, and just rub her feet, and we would watch what was on the news.
Yep.
And that's it. And like to this day, I mean, every single bone, everything like that, that's weird. There's certain things that stick in your mind, and that's one. It's the laugh, and it was her feet, and that's so weird to say. That's just so odd, right? Isn't that weird? But like I mean, it's just something that we did, and we would watch TV. We put on CNN and watch it, and either agree with the TV or yell at the TV, or have a conversation back and forth, and go on. The kids would be going in and out, and man, we were just at a high point in our marriage. I mean, never had any issues. I mean, it was always what couples go through, like who's doing the dishes, or you told this one, you told Bella this, and I told Bella something completely opposite, and Brandon wants to do this. And, I mean, like, it was never, we just jived really well. And, it was awesome, and like, y'all aren't as old as me. I'm 43. And so,
we're not that far off.
Oh yeah. Y'all are way far off. And so, I'm just sitting here, and, life was good, man. Like, I'm sitting here going, I've got this, awesome person that I've married, and I've got these 2 great kids. And I mean, we were doing a lot of traveling, and, you just, and I guess I'm saying this, for y'all. It's very easy to get complacent, right? With your relationships. I had a great one for 20 plus, for almost 20 years. And you just think that that's just the norm, and it's fine, and it's great. And then, when it's over, you really hope that the other person knew how much you cared for them.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I know that she did, right? But
yeah,
loss is loss, and it's hard, regardless of how you lose somebody, whether it's like this or if it's over, 6 months or a year. But again, man, I hope you guys have it as well as I had it. And if you do, then I really hope that you guys cherish it, because again, you can just go walking down on the street, and
yeah,
that's it. So anyway,
Amber's actually, what you said today, or like right now, it's like 20 years with you. And
this April of this year was 20 years that I've been with my husband. He was my high school sweetheart.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
That's cool.
The the mundane stuff, that question resonated so hard because you don't think about that stuff. My husband, I'm sorry.
Are you really apologizing for crying? That's what I've been doing for the past 2.5 hours. Come on.
Well, I couldn't say it earlier, but when you were talking about that, my husband does that for me. He will sit there and just grab lotion and rub my feet and oh God, I hit the mic. I'm a mess now. Oh God, what has happened?
I can throw tissue across the room.
That, like, you really, those little things that you don't think about, they are so quickly overlooked, and you just take advantage of that time and you don't appreciate it. And that clearly hit me real hard in the feels.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
My husband's
No,
a
you're
spaz, and
fine.
so the joke was, we knew we were in here recording, and he's out there with the kids, and I was like, he's gonna do something, right? So we're in here recording, and he walks in here and starts dancing
Yes.
while we're trying to talk to you. This is just who he is, right?
Sure.
I say it's annoying, but I mean, that's what makes him him, and that's why we are who we are together.
Yep.
And so, it's just silly things like that you're like, really, are you really interrupting me right now? But you wouldn't have it any other way either.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, exactly.
And it's not the big things, right? I mean, it's the little things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the little things, and you just cherish it all, guys. So it's beautiful. So
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking with us and sharing it. We really appreciate it. It's an honor for us to be able to talk to you.
I appreciate y'all. So, and I just want to say this. Without, and I hate saying the word podcasters because I don't think that's not how I view y'all. I mean, y'all are advocates. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate you guys being advocates because, again, just like I said, I don't have a platform. And by you guys allowing me to be on your podcast in order to tell her story, to get her story, spread out there, it means the world. So thank you guys for what you all do. So,
Of course.
That's why we do it. That's why we want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you are going to be at the True Crime Podcast Festival here in Austin at the end of August.
I am.
We will be there too.
Yeah,
absolutely. I look forward to shaking both of your hands. So
it'll be
very
an
much.
honor.
Thank you so much for your time. And honestly, I feel like you're an old friend now, so don't be surprised if we reach out to say hi or see how you're doing or ask for updates.
Please.
And that, we're here in Austin. If there is ever anything that we can do to help in any way, capacity, shape, form, don't hesitate. We're right here.
I absolutely will. Thank you both so much. And again, I appreciate you both. So thank you.
Let's keep spreading the word.
You all have a great rest of your day, and I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys in Austin.
You too. Sounds good.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
We were all a blubbery mess by the time our conversation ended. John has not only been an advocate for his wife, Katie, but for other victims of similar crimes. In April of 2021, John and other members of Katie's family testified in front of the Texas House Committee on Homeland Security and Public Safety in support of House Bill 1257, or also known as Colton's Law. The bill was filed by Representative Terry Meza and is named after Colton Carney, a 24-year-old young man with autism who was hit and killed by a car while walking to work early one morning in 2017. Colton's family later found out that while his body was tested for drugs or alcohol, the motorist who hit and killed him was not. This is because the law at the time did not require it, and the officer on the scene assumed there was no way drugs or alcohol were involved because it was so early in the morning.
Colton's Law was passed and requires police officers to take a suspect's blood sample and test it for drugs and alcohol if the person refuses to voluntarily give a blood sample, was driving a motor vehicle involved in the accident, or if the other person involved in the accident died, will die, or was severely injured. This eliminates any bad decisions that could be made on the scene. John is also working with Representative Terry Meza to pass House Bill 3264, which states that an officer or government official may be removed for incompetency, official misconduct, or intoxication.
To honor Katie, a firefighter named Dustin Bortsfield, who is a high school friend of John's, began the Katie Palmer Project, a nonprofit organization that brings the Christmas spirit to families that have faced tragedy or hardship. Volunteers will hang Christmas lights for the nominated families across Central Texas, Dallas, and Houston to help bring a little cheer during the difficult holiday season. The Katie Palmer Project runs on donations and volunteers, so visit katiepalmerproject.com if you would like to donate, volunteer, or nominate a family for the upcoming holiday season.
The school where Katie taught, Henry Scott Middle School, honored her by starting a clothes closet called Katie's Closet, where families could donate gently used or new clothing items for others who may need them. Hagerman Wildlife Refuge, where Katie volunteered and sneakily took her family during outings, dedicated an educational pavilion to Katie in May of 2022.
To show support for Katie Palmer, join the Justice for Katie Palmer Facebook group, follow Justice for Katie Palmer on Instagram, and make sure you're registered to vote if you're a resident of Grayson County. John will be on the main stage at the True Crime Podcast Festival in Austin, Texas on August 27th, 2023. So if you're attending, be sure to watch his panel. We will have a table there as well, so please come say hi and spin our prize wheel to win some weird true crime merch.
Thank you again, John, for joining us in our little podcast corner and letting us share Katie's story. Being able to provide a platform for victims and advocates is one of the main reasons we wanted to start this podcast, so it's an honor to help spread awareness about her case. Be sure to check out our Instagram at Weird True Crime to see pictures of Katie, who was truly beautiful inside and out.
Until next time, stay safe.
And make good choices. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
On the morning of April 21st, 2020, John and Katie Palmer went for an early morning walk together. While on their walk, a vehicle crossed over the roadway, striking Katie and John from behind. That vehicle was driven by Corey Todd Foster. John suffered critical injuries. Katie was declared dead at 1 a.m. the following morning.
Come tell me what. Well, I was leaving the house to go get a couple of guys that were going to help me do some work today, and I was just clearing my windshield. It was real foggy.
Yeah.
And then I had them on high, and I just couldn't see because the glare was so bad.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't have driven.
Yeah.
I should have waited at the house until it cleared up.
What side of the road were they on that you noticed?
I didn't know. I thought I hit a telephone pole. I never saw him.
I shouldn't have driven. I thought I hit a telephone pole. I never saw him.
Corey? Yeah. How much did you have to drink?
Nothing.
Last night.
Oh.
I didn't smell alcohol.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a couple of issues last night. But about 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock?
Yeah.
That was the latest you had her?
I mean, I went to bed early.
Okay. So you had how many last yesterday?
I mean, honestly, I don't know.
Well, I'm smelling it pretty strong coming from your breath today. Is why I'm asking, how late did you stop? How late did you have your last one?
It was 7 o'clock probably.
7? Okay. And if you had to guess how many you maybe had, how many would that be?
I mean, over the course of the day, probably 4 or 5.
Okay. Over the entire day yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So when did you say you quit drinking, Court?
8 or 9 o'clock,
Okay.
I guess. 7, I don't know.
You must have drank a lot last night, though, because it's still going up from there. You're under the limit, but to still have that in your system that many hours later, okay?
Yeah.
Corey Foster blew a .06 BAC at 8:35 a.m., approximately 50 minutes after hitting John and Katie Palmer. I'm smelling it pretty strong coming from your breath today. You must have drank a lot last night, though. You still have that in your system that many hours later, okay?
He said we were facing traffic, walking east, and he come up from behind them. So he was on the wrong side of the road, too, and hit him. And his left headlight and stuff was hit him, but he's in an F-250. And he said he thought he hit a telephone pole. He's like, I didn't even know what I hit. Because he said my windshield was real misty and stuff and fogged up, and he's driving towards the sun, so. And it crept, and then it got to an 06. But I mean, I could smell it when I walked up, you know.
How about you guys drinking on the 06? Did you hit him at 06? What? You asking for blood? No, we're not going to. That was still from last night.
Yeah, we got that list.
You asking for blood? Nah, we're not going to.
But I mean, he flat out says, he goes, I couldn't see, which when I leave my house, I drive directly to the east, and it was prior to this crash happened, or after. And yeah, I couldn't even see the road because I couldn't get the fog off my windshield. And then the sun, driving into the sun, you know, I mean, I get it. He was blind, but I mean, he's on the wrong side of the road too, you know.
And yeah, I couldn't even see the road because I couldn't get the fog off of my windshield. Excerpt from THP Investigative Report, Tarif Al-Khatib's account of the incident. Quote, as I began to head to the crash location, I noticed the weather was very foggy and it was creating a fog on the windshield that took a second to clear off due to my vehicle sitting outside in the weather. End quote. Note, it was a very sunny morning and there was no fog inside.
I can't believe he was that high still today. He's like, man, I quit drinking like at 8 o'clock last night, which I'm not really buying that to be that, you know, at this time of day. But, oh yeah.
You know, I mean, I get it. He was blind, but I mean, he was on the wrong side of the road too. I can't believe he was that high still today. He said he was like, man, I quit drinking at 8 o'clock last night, which I'm not really buying that to be that, you know, at this time of the day.
And I just know of the guy because his wife works with Courtney, so.
The following photos were taken in late 2019, months before Foster would kill Katie Palmer. We will post these photos online for you to see. How Tarif Al-Khatib speaks to Corey Foster, who has just killed Katie Palmer.
She on her way? She on her way?
I'll just
Man, I'll give you a ride.
I just need to clear my head.
No, I'll give you a ride, man. Okay? Here's your license and insurance. Yeah, here, I'll give you a ride home. Okay, no problem.
Tarif Al-Khatib speaks about John and Katie's children who are unaware their parents have been hit by Foster.
In and out of consciousness, and he's really out of it. They said he's really out of it, and he sounds really confused, but he said that they have 3 kids and that they're home alone, and he thinks that the oldest is 9.
Well, they probably gonna come to the fucking door.
Well, they may not.
I wonder what they want me to do with them.
Is this how DPS upholds courtesy, service, and protection? Hold Tarif Al-Khatib accountable.
And I just know of the guy. Because his wife works with Courtney. So his driveway's right there where you can see that rock road coming onto the. But he's got a big ass house. Dude.
What's he do?
He sells medical equipment. He just moved out here not too long ago. But right when I come up and I saw it was him, I was like, yeah, he's probably drunk.
He said the same thing. He said that. He just said that dude's always drunk.
Hey, what time do you want to put down on the?
Well, see, he was talking about buying it, but he said then they backed out of selling it. He was going to buy the whole country club.
What, this guy?
The guy that hit the. Yeah. Dude, you should see his fucking house.
Let me turn it off. Turn this off.
Yeah. She just whacked her head real good because there's hair and stuff on top of the hood. Oh, I know. It even been in the bumper, dude. Jim-Bob told me maybe reckless driving on this. Yeah, dude, he knocked the shit out of her, dude. Because she was laying over there.
What side of the road were they on? That side? On this side?
He said we were going this way on this side of the road, and he just bowed from behind us.
Justice for Katie Palmer.